Okay, we're live about a minute or two late. Sorry about that. Talking about fears and facts regarding COVID. And I got a message earlier asking when we'd be live, and I tried to respond to it, and then it went away, and I couldn't find it, so sorry. But we're live now, and I did send a post out saying we would be live. We're going to continue with our fears and facts about COVID. What do you got for us?
Fear. The only way to prevent catching COVID-19 is to wear a face mask. And of course, that is false. The face masks are actually to protect someone who is sick, to protect us from them. So us wearing those face masks doesn't help us or prevent us from getting sick unless we have an N95 respirator mask. But the surgical masks actually are not helpful. What is more helpful is remaining at least 6 feet away from somebody else and those proper hand washing techniques.
The only thing that a face mask might do is help remind you not to touch your face. When I was a medical student, I was all gowned up, gloves, the whole thing. And first thing I did is I had to tell the scrub nurse, I just scratched my face. Stupid medical student. Of course, everybody had to make terrible fun of me for the rest of my life. Hi, Mandy. And hi, Jody. So, yeah, the first fear is you got to wear a mask. No, actually, the sick people should wear a mask. The not sick people, it doesn't really help because it's aerosolized and can still get in your eyes. So unless you're wearing, a closed safety goggles, it really doesn't help that much.
Right, and we're actually using up those masks for the people that need it. So,
fear. Coronavirus is the deadliest virus known to man. That is absolutely false. In fact, it's not even in the top. It's not even in the top 100. There are viruses that have occasionally had 60% death rates in human population. So this isn't even close. So Ebola, bubonic plague, bubonic plague is actually bacteria, but smallpox, also a bacteria, and many others, actually smallpox isn't a bacteria, sorry about that, and many of the others have much higher mortality. So it's not the deadliest by a long shot. It's a little more deadly than, and for some reason my charging cord won't work here. I love it when that happens. So it might be very short if my battery goes dead. I've been plugged in, and anyway.
Let's see.
What else? What do you got?
Fear. This could be the end of the world. Fact. As with all past outbreaks, this one will eventually come to an end as well.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, Crystal. So, yes, the virus is not going to be to the end of the world. As with all viruses, it will eventually circulate through everyone and come to an end.
Is that a Crystal that knows Fran by chance? I don't recognize your last name because I think you changed it. Like I'm trying to see that picture.
No, Crystal Trenton.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Crystal. Hello, Crystal. And Yolanda.
Yolanda, and sorry I didn't answer you. I tried to and then lost how to do it and couldn't find you. Sorry. We're live right now. Yeah, so go ahead. It's not the end of the world. No. It's far from the end of the world. Even the worst case projections are not as bad as the bubonic plague or the black plague as it was called at the time. So it's nowhere close to the end of the world. 80% of these cases are going to be mild. In fact, probably something like 50% of the cases are going to be so mild you won't even suspect it's coronavirus. And then 80% will be mild, and then it's only that last 20% where it gets progressively worse. Yeah. Excuse me. Maybe it's coronavirus. Prepare for the worst and buy everything in sight. Well, that does seem to be what's happening, but it's actually a bad idea. All that does is cause shortages and incites panic. This isn't even a GI. GI symptoms are a minority symptom in this case, and yet you can't buy toilet paper anywhere. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't know what people are doing with all this toilet paper, but it's absolutely false. what you should do is try to shop in a way where you only go out about once a week. If you do that, you're doing good. And you know, frankly, most of us, whether you're in California or Nevada, like some of the listeners, or in the northern reaches of the, don't touch your face, in the northern reaches.
Coughing, he's touching his face. He's a goner.
If you're in the northern reaches of the tornado belt like we are, you should probably have several days worth of food hanging around anyway. And if you had that, you'd be perfectly adequately prepared for this situation.
Yes, and whoever keeps buying all the mangoes out in Wilmer, the frozen mangoes, please stop. All I want is one bag of frozen mangoes, and I haven't been able to find it in weeks.
That's right.
You coughed in your hand, Fran said.
Yeah, I did. I was a terrible human being.
Should have seen him sneezing earlier.
No.
Turned his head and just sneezed all over the room. No.
I sneezed into here, like this. All right, what do you got?
I have a really good one that I think everyone's going to love. A common way to get COVID-19 is from drinking Corona beer.
You know, they changed its name. They now call it SARS, so no.
So, of course, I think, you know, I kept that one, and just because I think it's gives a little bit of humor. But, of course, you can't get Corona from drinking Corona beer.
Unless somebody coughed on your bottle, maybe.
Right. Yeah. So go ahead if you'd like to have a Corona.
My dad told me that you can get sexually transmitted diseases from a toilet seat, but it's a really uncomfortable place to have sex. So it's sort of the same thing with a Corona. You could get it from a Corona bottle, but you'd have to have somebody goober on it first. So, Rebecca, hi. Okay, so let's see. Fear. You can protect yourself from COVID-19 by swallowing or gargling with bleach, taking acetic acid or steroids, or using essential oils, salt water, ethanol, or other substances. Yeah, no, don't do that. Gargling with bleach is a particularly bad idea. You know, there's a couple, I think it was in Nevada.
Arizona.
Was it Arizona?
Phoenix.
And they bought fish tank hydroxychloroquine. And the guy died and his wife is in critical condition because they didn't know what they're doing. I don't know exactly what happened. My suspicion is they took a gram dose instead of a milligram dose or something, miscalculated the dose, and you know, he's dead because of it. And the overwhelming probability is he would not have died from COVID. So it was just tragic and sad, and it's dumb. Don't do stupid shit. Don't gargle bleach. Who wants a white tongue anyway? You know, or you know, drinking yourself into oblivion. In order to get 60% alcohol in your blood, you would be dead long before you had enough alcohol in your blood to kill the COVID virus. Yeah. So don't do that. That's really a bad idea. All right, what else you got?
I'm out.
You're out. Well, I got lots.
You do have lots. Yeah.
Oh, I am young and don't need to worry about where I travel or who I hang out with or hygiene or anything because the COVID virus won't kill me. Yeah, it probably won't. But you'll be attending your grandparents' funeral. So you decide. Do you want to, you know, have grandparents? Do we want to have an older generation, or do we want to just let them go because that becomes the problem?
So yeah, obviously we're going over these just because, you know, there's a lot of fear out there right now. And again, fear like that couple in Arizona, that's what drove him to do irrational things.
Yeah.
And now he lost his life over it. So, you know, we're just trying to basically calm some nerves and also have a little bit of fun with this.
By the way, we're not making this shit up. People have done this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so the coronavirus is bright red or blue with tentacles. It's fluorescent green or glowing orange, or it's a horrible dirty brown color. It's none of those things. That's just what graphic artists do to make it look cool on their magazine cover. So all those weird, scary things are just for effect.
Yep.
We already talked about that. We talked about that.
Yesterday.
We talked about that fun stuff. We talked about
I think we're
those.
done.
I think we did all of our things. So, any questions you guys have? Yeah, exactly, Yolanda. Why on earth would anybody... boom, Crystal says, what a moron.
I know. It's so sad. The things that, people just do in that heightened state of fear. It just...
Yeah, people are pushed to do irrational things because they're so frightened. And if you really put this into perspective, 80% of cases are mild. Probably 50% of cases are so mild you wouldn't even consider that it might be COVID. And then the last 20%, the first 10% of that 20% are not that bad. It's just really bad flu. And then it gets progressively worse. And maybe 10% of cases are actually hospitalized. And then of those 10%, not even of those 10%, but of all of them, it's less than 1% fatality. So it's somewhere between 6 and 10 times worse than the flu. So that's bad. But look, we live with the flu every single year. We need to be more cautious with this because it appears to be more contagious. And the problem here is not so much that everybody and their brother is going to die from this. The problem is we're going to overload our healthcare system, thank you. And there will be, like New York, some hospitals in New York right now, they're out of ventilators, they're out of CPAP machines, BiPAP machines. And what happens in the end stages of this, in the worst cases, is they get something called acute respiratory distress syndrome, which is basically body fluids leaking into the lungs. So,
Franz, do you want to?
no,
Okay. Fran said, thank you so much for calming all of us. Social media sucks. Yes. And Crystal said, media hype. Yes, I agree, Crystal. And Yolanda, let's see if I can get this there we go. I'm struggling with people not taking this serious. In Florida, we have people not following the guidelines. People from New York driving here and not quarantining.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy. And there's a political divide here, interestingly. There's an age divide and a political divide. If you're in the most extreme right camp, you're going to deny that there's any problem. And if you're young, in your 20-ish college years, you're going to deny there's any problem. And those two demographics, it's been very difficult to convince. And the problem is, in matters of faith, which, whether it's religious faith or dogma of any kind, logical arguments are largely worthless. There's a guy named Sam Harris who's a physicist and a really, really smart guy, does a lot of speaking, and he's kind of baffled by this, but it's so obvious. He's giving these coherent, logical arguments about why we should do things, and people aren't paying attention. Because logical arguments are useless against faith, oddly enough. And so what do? I don't know. I guess we have to find space in our hearts for compassion for those people and treat them for their COVID, even though they're stupid. I don't know. It is very disheartening. And, hopefully we can insulate ourselves from those people. And there will be few enough of them that they don't overrun the system, and we can make it through this without too much difficulty. What do we say there?
Mandy, I live across the street from the high school football field. Every day there are a bunch of people, kids out there, football, soccer, just hanging out in bunches. Makes me so mad.
Yeah, and we've got a similar problem. We've got some teenagers here, and they're doing what has to be done, but they're social animals, right? And in teenage years, man, are you a social animal? Your friend that you just met yesterday is far more important than anybody in your family. They're my friends. I have to see them. So it's really tough. And for extroverts, I love what you said. You should take that one about extroverts and introverts. Yeah.
Yes, I said to a friend of mine, I'm like, dear extrovert, I have been living in your world my entire life. Our world is for extroverts.
Yeah.
All we're asking is that you live in our world for a short period of time.
Yeah, live in our introverted world just for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I can be in the house here. I don't even really, frankly, notice that there's anything going
There's
on.
not a whole lot different for us.
Maybe I get a little more time to read.
Mm-hmm.
But the kids are going all crazy because they want to be with their friends and they want to do stuff. They don't,
A lot of board games. I ordered a bunch more board games and trying to get outside here and there.
We played Shaggy Dog or Shake the Dog or what's it called?
Soggy Dog.
Soggy Dog.
Great game, especially for a 6-year-old.
Yeah, great game because the dog goes like this and shoots water all over the place.
5-second rule in sequence tonight.
Yeah, just tonight. So, I'm not a game guy. All right, what else? Oh, we have another one down here. What's this say?
Crystal, do you think in time we will be able to tell exposure by blood test? Like,
yeah,
how many
there are
already
There are already several labs looking at developing antibody tests. In fact, there are a couple of already developed them, and they're awaiting FDA approval. And so, yeah, eventually we will be able to tell those people who were exposed and perhaps have immunity. So that will be a positive thing.
Mandy, I sure am trying. I just want to hug my granddaughter.
Yeah,
and
that
stay
the
home
truth?
and do what we need to do.
Yeah, I know. I've got a whole bunch of those little critters, 4 of them. 5 of them actually now, and one of them's brand spanking new, and of course they're in self-imposed quarantine, and I can't go visit them because who knows where I've been, right? Or just trying to get there, who knows what's happened. So there goes my face again. Fortunately, I'm in the house and I've already done all these things. But I should know better, but it just happens automatically when the fireplace was on until we sat down.
I'm
it's
very
pretty
hot right now as I keep moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. So you're right. It's very hard to be separated from those little ones, and it's very hard to be separated from other family members.
Just friends and the simple things. Yeah, I'm feeling it, and then we just got the word today that another month or so that.
Yeah, in Minnesota here, they've closed everything down until when?
Beginning of May.
Beginning of May, so the entire month of April. So I guess somebody's decided to take it seriously. I posted about 5 days ago, now is the time, shelter in place, and finally Minnesota's keeping up. The issue here is if we do this really aggressively for 4 weeks, then we will have extinguished it to the point where we can do case control. So case control is how they have done it in South Korea and how they've done it in Singapore and other countries. They did it a little bit in and starting to do it more in Italy too. And if we can just stop everything for a month, we can extinguish it to the point where it's realistic to be able to find the individual who's sick and all of their contacts and isolate and quarantine. And then we'll be able to do it in pods. And then what we'll be able to do, if we do it right, what we'll be able to do is identify the pockets and say, okay, you guys have to go into social isolation now for a week while we get this figured out. And then this pocket has to, and so on. So, hopefully that's the way we're going to be able to get the upper hand and not completely destroy the economy.
Yeah.
You posted a quote earlier that, what did we miss?
Do you want me to read the rest?
Yeah, I can't read it.
I can, just barely. I posted a quote earlier that we won't take the little things for granted when this passes. A hug, a short embrace, gratefulness. Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, this is a terrible thing to be going through, but it's also an opportunity. Every tragedy is an opportunity. And this is an opportunity to become more mindful about your life and your world. And to be more vulnerable. And I know vulnerability is a big word in your organization, Yolanda. Vulnerability is sexy, they like to say. And I think it is. I think it's also required for bravery. You can't be brave if you're not vulnerable. And that's what these times require, is vulnerability and mindfulness. All right. I think we're done. So we will, I don't want to string it along and make it even more boring than it already is. So we will see you tomorrow.
Yeah, unless you have any last minute questions
Yep.
or
If you have that
anything
last
else?
bit of sage wisdom to depart
no,
or impart.
no, not
Depart,
really.
impart,
Just, just me personally, I've really been working on the mindfulness and not being stressed out, not worrying about this. Because right now I am doing all that I can personally do just by being home here with my children, and I feel like I'm in the kitchen like all day long by the time I make the 3 meals, and they help clean up the 3 meals, but I swear.
It's amazing because I feel like I do dishes 4 times a day, and yet she's in the kitchen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, just really enjoying this time that I'm here and try to really work on those things that bring you some peace. So really try to concentrate on that, on what you can do and what you can enjoy, because there's lots of things that we're all missing out on, but there's also things that I know. Oh, you got rid of all the comments.
I didn't mean to do that. Oh, there we go. Okay.
And there's so many things that we don't normally get to experience with our families, and the closeness and the vulnerability and the sharing and just our own, like, practicing stress management. Tom has me on a really great regimen for stress management, and I haven't felt this great in years because I'm actually like taking it and doing it religiously, and so yeah, work on those things if you can.
Mandy, thank you. And thank you also to Yolanda, but I wanted to say something. Mandy said the 2 of you are great.
That's very nice of you.
Yeah. I think Elizabeth says, because I talk too much, she's been feeling a little bit like she's extra. But I think she has a very important role here. Yep. Okay. Well, we will see you tomorrow. Have a good evening.
Yeah, have a good evening. Enjoy it.
Namaste to all of you. Bye.
Bye.